There we go. All right.
And we're
We're
live.
and we're live. All
All
right.
right.
So this is my first live chat stream, and I decided to bring on Rob Cannon
That's
because
me.
that's him. Yeah, because we're doing this comic together, and I thought it would be good to get a little perspective from him about his process and how he works and what led him into comics and things like that. So, Rob,
Hello.
hi. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been making art since before I can remember, and I've always gravitated towards storytelling. And for a long time, I kind of wanted to do movies, but I realized that you had a lot of limitations there, which can be kind of creativity influencing, which is cool. Working within limitation can be really helpful. But I also realized that when you're working in comics, you can literally do anything that you want as long as you practice enough and you hone your craft. Whereas with movies, obviously, you're limited to a budget and all that stuff. So I moved into doing graphic novels after being inspired by seeing artists like Frank Miller and Kent Williams, who did The Fountain. Um, really seeing those styles allowed me to realize that like anyone can make comics. I feel like Frank Miller's like he's an incredibly adept artist, but his style is kind of it's like not what you would have seen commercially back then. Like when I was growing up, everything was really standardized, but Frank Miller has a really unique style. And
Yeah.
so, and there are lots more artists like that. I'm just using that as an example because like everyone knows Frank Miller who knows anything about comics. So, um, and that's kind of where I got my whole my look from. Kind of him and Ralph Steadman were huge influences on my style. And if you take a look at my work, you'll notice first off that it's like messy. I kind of let the materials do some of the work for me. I like to use randomness when I can because it creates kind of like there's something that happens there that you can't recreate, whereas when you're working digitally, it's a lot easier to copy things and like things just don't have that ability to become something that you never imagined possible. Like sometimes when you're working with water or with found materials or something like that, you'll you'll have things happen where you're like, well, I would have thought of that. Or it's kind of like dreams in that way. So
Yeah.
that is an incredibly long-winded explanation of how I got to where I am today.
Oh well, long-winded's not a bad thing per se. Yeah. I would agree with you. Like I wanted to do films as well, and I found that the comics led a little bit more creative control over things too. So
Mm.
yeah. Now I'm not a really great artist by any perspective, hence why I decided to work with you. So yeah, nothing wrong
Well,
with
we're
that though.
always we're always learning and growing. I do appreciate that you do drawings in your that you included with your scripts. That actually helped me out a lot because that gives me some like a foundation to work on and go, okay, I know really clearly one thing that I am very adamant about when I first start working with a writer or whatever is that I want you to spend as much time and effort as possible describing what you want the artwork to look like. And by you doing that and putting that extra effort in, it really helps me out a lot. So
Right, right.
writers out there, do that. Like
Yeah,
draw crappy little pictures because it's really helping your artists out more than you know.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to help in the long run if you have an idea of where you want to go with it. I think that about anything. Now, uh, when you're translating from a script, do you do ask a lot of questions and things like that? But do you have any sort of process? Do you send like if say you're working with a writer who doesn't have a lot of descriptors in it, would you send them a lot of design work first and then let them pick from that sort of
Well,
idea?
usually
Yeah.
it depends on what how the relationship. Like I always start out by trying to gauge how much creative license the writer wants to give me, or if they want me to be very specific to their vision. Um, Priority one for me is always how do I make something that fits their vision? And if they don't have a really concise vision, if they have kind of a vague script, that's okay. An artist can work with that. And it's fun for me, obviously, because I get to make up a bunch of stuff, but it's also more work, right? So, Larry, you sent me concept art that other artists had done before. And that was helpful for me because I could kind of take what they had done and sort of put my own spin on it. And, I made sure that was okay with you. And that communication is really important when you're working with a client, whether it's doing comic books or any other kind of collaborative project. But the main thing is, for me, just being sure that I am doing something and the work that I'm doing is conducive to what the writer is. Our visions are kind of intersecting in a way where everyone's happy. And well, it's not so much about me being happy, but if you're collaborating, then it's supposed to be kind of like that. But I don't know. I like to have the writer have a very significant influence on the artwork as much as they want to have. So.
Right. That's a good thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess it depends on how involved the writer wants to be in it, but
right.
Some writers I know are just willing to let the artist do whatever, use their vision, which is a good collaborative process too. But I don't know. In my perspective, I kind of had like an idea of what I wanted the things to look like, and I did the concept art with the other artists. I had my own pictures and things like that, but eventually your style crept in, and we sort of went with that. So
it did creep right in.
Yeah, so that's good though. Like obviously I'm liking everything that's being done. Where could I go with this? So I have had a lot of comments about your unique style, and it's all been positive. People are mostly saying like, wow, I've never really seen a lot of this art in comics before. And I said, well, yeah, coming from sort of a fine arts background, I was always going to go with somebody who was more fine arts driven, I guess. So when I saw your work that you did with Kevin, I knew I kind of had to try to get you. So
awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, Glacial's pretty far out. That was a really ambitious attempt. Doing that coloring style was pretty crazy, but
yeah,
I'm glad people are liking it. I always try to make my work look unique. The market is so saturated right now, especially in indie comics. You really need to have that X factor to stand out. And so I'm not going to be able to come in and do like a standard style of art and make that look better than everyone else's. So I just try to do something different that people have never seen before. And I think for the most part, I'm successful, at least in that. I've noticed something when I do events in public and stuff like that. I've got my art kind of on display, and I'm working on it. It's not perfect yet, but when people come by, they can clearly see what I've done, and they look at it. And a lot of people just kind of walk by and go, they're not there for art. Maybe they're not seeing something that they care about, whatever. But the people that do come in, and I think there probably aren't as many that would be if it was, sort of what you were used to seeing. But the people that do come in, I noticed, are very interested. Is in a way that suggests to me like they're going, oh man, this is something that I've kind of been looking for my whole life, but like not really found. I don't know, maybe not so profound, but there's a uniqueness to it that I really try to shoot for. That's my main focus, is making an impact. So
now, I mentioned you had like more of a fine arts background. Did you went to school and everything, or?
I went to a community college. I got a bachelor's degree in art, for all that's been worth. But yeah, my formal training is really limited in that way. I took a lot of classes, obviously. I gotta say, some of the most important training I had was in color theory. I used to be really crap at coloring. And, of course, all this stuff comes with practice, but knowing some of the science behind actually why colors look good together is incredibly important. And it hasn't been too impactful with Origin of Time and Space because it's in black and white, obviously. But still knowing those things, even when you're doing black and white, you can kind of visualize the scene in color and then kind of desaturate and envision those values and everything kind of working together in black and white. It still makes a difference if you have that idea in your head of like, this is what a sunset looks like versus a sunrise. Does that make sense? I don't know.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I work in black and white a lot, so yeah, I know what that looks like and how it works out in value rather than color. But yeah, I went to community college too. I don't think there's anything less valuable about that training or anything like that. But yeah, yeah.
Except
But
for the degree itself is much
well,
less
yeah.
valuable.
But I mean, I don't know how much degrees really matter in the field of art where it's
Right.
visual, right? Now,
That's
some people would be
oh,
mad at me for saying that, but yeah.
that's certainly why I didn't pursue. Like, I didn't feel any motivation to go get my bachelor's or anything like that, because I realized halfway through my career there, it was like, okay, this is going to get me somewhere. I'm going to become a better artist and get more of the technical stuff down if I keep taking classes. But if I'm going to build a career, like walking in the door and saying, "Oh, here's my art. By the way, I have a bachelor's degree." That's not going to help you out all that much unless you're trying to work for a company, which at the time I was not, and still I'm not. So, it all depends on what you're gunning for.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and I will say though, like, definitely the classes I took and the knowledge that I got going to school was more important and impactful and valuable than the degree that I got. So there's that. There, if anyone out there is thinking about it, it might be worth just taking a few classes, like high value classes, to improve your skills, than actually going for a degree. But everyone's got their own path that they've got to follow.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's. I know a lot of self-taught people. I know a lot of people that went to school, obviously, but I don't think there's any less or more value in that. But I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just think it's important that you're right. Like, you do learn a lot quicker certain theories and techniques and things like that for sure.
Mm.
So that is helpful, but you got to wager the cost versus the reward, I guess.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, the reward can be pretty high because not only are you getting that knowledge, but you're also getting exposed to different materials and tools that you hadn't before.
that's
Like,
true.
I
Yeah,
learned how to use Photoshop in college. Like that, that's life-changing stuff right there. If you can't afford it or whatever, or you don't know anyone who has it, like, and of course, it's pretty easy to get these days. You can sign up for a free trial or something, but you know what I
yeah,
mean. Getting and having kind of an eye, a look into the professional world of art is something that you can kind of get you can peek through the door, at least in a community college, because usually they have professionals that have kind of in semi-retirement that teach. So it's
right,
worth
right.
checking out.
Uh, so you've done shows and galleries then too. I've seen. Have you? Or
Yeah, I
yeah,
have done a few
yeah,
things local, nothing big or notable, but I do like to go to, local markets. There's actually a lot of stuff that's happening in Sacramento right now that I'm a part of, and that's been really cool. Get my exposure out there, get people going, and then, you know, make a little money too. So that's always good.
yeah, for sure, for
But,
sure. Yeah. I haven't had much luck in myself doing that stuff, but it's a different field though. So
mm,
like photography isn't really considered as prominent in art as painting, for example. But people
it
are
can be
less.
hard. Like journalism is more in the field, and not journalism. Like photography is more in the a field of journalism. I think I don't know a whole lot about photography, but what I have seen in art, like what's really renowned in photography, has usually come from like being in the right place at the right time and catching some insane moment.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
there are definitely, at least around where I live in Sacramento, installations that have photographers and that kind of thing there. So
I will see what happened was when digital came around, a lot of the technical art of it kind of went out the door,
mm,
unfortunately. Not to say that, you can't be artful in digital. It's just
mm,
with more people having access to it, it lessens the impact of the whole thing. Whereas before, you needed to learn how to properly expose film and print and all that kind of stuff. And there was some technical art to it. And I came in
right.
just at the end of that when I was in school first, but you
Mm.
know, then went back to actually sort of learn digital a little bit more. But like I'll probably never make a profession out of it, other than the fact that I work at a photo store. But at least I got that. So yeah,
That's cool. Working
yeah,
in your field, I mean, that's a lot
yeah,
better than, I don't know, doing something you don't care about at all.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that stuff is pretty technical. I took photography in high school. That's as far as that goes. But I
right,
did
right.
learn how to develop film and stuff and work in the darkroom. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
But
still do a lot of that. So I mean,
That's awesome.
I've been hanging on to it.
That's cool. And that's something that's never going to go out of style, I don't think. At least there's always going to be a place for it. I kind of feel the same way with digital art, like people who do their artwork entirely on Photoshop or Corel Paint or whatever. Like I don't want to devalue it because people do beautiful things with digital painting, and you don't have to buy materials and stuff like that. There's a lot of advantages to it. But I feel like a lot of indie comics, especially, you can tell when someone does inking digitally, especially if they're not using a special type of brush or anything. If you're just using a circle brush with some pressure sensitivity, you get really flat lines and everything just kind of, I don't know. I've seen a lot of books that I can think of that they just all look like they're inked by the same person, even though they come from around the world. And it kind of it removes some of that stuff I was talking about earlier, where like you have the randomness factor.
It's really clean, right? Like
it's super clean.
It's got that nice, clean look to it. But you're right, it does lose a little bit of the personality in the process. But unfortunately, now I've seen some digital artists that still have a lot of that sort of line style incorporated into their work, but yeah, it definitely loses a lot of that. The things you get with doing hand drawing work, the mistakes that are left in or incorporated in, I guess. So
yeah. Oh, the mistakes, Bob Ross, happy accidents, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the beautiful thing about working in traditional. But again, I don't want to disparage digital at all because it's incredibly powerful. You can do actually anything that you want to if you can come up with the skills to. And I usually always augment my drawings. Like usually what I do is I draw everything in pen and ink, and then I scan it in and color it digitally if I want it to look a certain way specifically. With what I'm doing for Origin of Time and Space is actually kind of unusual, where I'm doing almost everything traditionally. I'll do the pencil outline real quick, do a pencil sketch, and then go over that with ink. What do you call it? A diluted ink wash where I have like I can show you my bottles if I want. They're right here. Sure. Yeah. If you want. Oh, cool show and tell. So basically, what you do is you get a bottle or a little cup or something like that, and I label them because I want to know what the hell I'm getting into. Number 1 is mostly water and like 10% ink. 2 is maybe 30% ink, and 3 is 50 to 70% ink, and that gives you a pretty good range of value when you're going to shading or whatever. And then if you go on it with more layers, it gets darker and darker, so you're able to get some pretty good gradation with that. And so after that, I usually go on with another ink layer and probably go in with some just pure ink brush and get the really dark spots. Then after that, I take this son of a bitch in here, which is like a magic wand scanner, and it kind of it gets a weird image because it kind of blows out the colors. So you have to be careful. You'll lose a little bit of your value. You lose a little bit of your value range doing that, but I kind of tailor the artwork to that because since I know that's going to happen, I try to like make some things darker where it doesn't look so good when you see it in person, but after it's scanned in, it all kind of works. And then, you get in there and do your color correction and make sure everything's like your whites are white and your blacks are black. You always want that, or usually if you're doing a comic book, at least for what I'm doing currently. I don't like speaking in absolutes because there's always some exception.
For sure, yeah.
And a few little lighting effects here and there after that, and there you go. But
copying or digitizing work, I should say, is the hardest part. I've always found a photograph in photography, copying paintings and stuff like that. It's always a pain in the butt trying to get a flat lighting or copying the colors exactly because certain colors don't photograph exactly properly or anything like that. So yeah, it's always a pain, but it can be a real issue that way for copying work. And as far as scanning goes, it's great, but if you don't have a large scanner and you're working large format, it's pretty hard, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. So yeah, with this thing that I just showed you, the magic wand, it's only I think it's 11 inches wide or something like that. So I have to scan, and all of the drawings I'm doing for yours are, I want to say 14 by 20 inches or something like that. So they're bigger than that. So I have to scan it in strips and then like stitch it together in Photoshop, which I've gotten pretty good at. But
Okay.
it's tricky to do, especially when you're working with complex lines, because everything has to match up perfectly.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, exactly.
it can
Um,
be done.
it's pretty hard. I know that, but actually, I had some of your pages printed in this little preview book that I did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was before you sent me. Well, here I'll flick it over to my camera here. So that was before you sent me the updated ones with the cleaner lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I actually like built a page as it might look in a book with frames and everything. So the squares
Yeah.
are clean and evenly spaced out.
Yeah. But this worked really well. Unfortunately didn't get many copies of it out. Just one actually, but I've got a whole bunch of them here.
Nice.
Yeah, but I went and made this little book so that I had something to show to hopefully sell off of. And I know I included a lot of the design work. Like I've got a page of all the sketches that you did.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So
that's good to show people, to get them to see if they're interested. Here's what we're working on, and here's where we are so far.
Yeah,
here's where we're going.
And this is a perk that I'm including with as one of the perks on the campaign, in case anybody's interested in seeing like what kind of stuff's in there. There's your cover and
nice.
All the design work we did.
Oh,
for that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of neat. Now the book I'll probably be putting out with the comic will be a little bit different. It'll be edited a little slightly to include more stuff about the campaign and things like that. But yeah, updated a bit. I know there's some spelling mistakes in there I got to switch to. So
yeah, I always got to double check that stuff.
Well, yeah, I did, but not well enough apparently.
triple check then.
I found out there's a spelling error on a campaign video too, but it's so minor. I don't think I'm gonna go back and edit it right now. So
nice.
I don't know if I have the video completely saved in editable fashion right now. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. But anyway, so is there anything else you want to discuss or talk about or promote while you're here?
Oh, not really. I mean, everything I'm doing currently. So I think between you and I, we're kind of on hiatus until we find out what happens with the campaign, and then we'll find out the next steps from there. So
kinda, yeah. I was going to contact you soon about doing some color pages. I think before the campaign ends.
Nice.
Think we need to sort of make a little something, because the cover is getting a lot of attention for being like real nice and punchy and stuff like that. So I think we need a couple images on the inside, maybe the first couple pages, because I'm kind of worried. Well, like the first couple pages all are very abstract, right?
Yes.
You know that, yeah.
I don't know in space.
They're all in space, and I don't know if they'll translate well to black and white as effectively as they would in color. So I'm thinking maybe the first couple pages, regardless of whether the rest of the book's in black and white or not, I'll probably order in color. So
that could be cool. Yeah, I could do some really neat. I might even break out the oils for that one. That would be pretty neat.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. So we'll talk about that. And
okay. Cool.
And it'll be soon though, because we've only got, I think, 47 days or something like that left on the campaign, so it's gonna be quick.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah. All right.
So that was my lead into like everything I'm doing right now is kind of local. So I don't know how exciting that is to people watching on social media across the globe.
Talk about it. I don't think. I mean, you're definitely somebody who needs to be out there. I think more if you enjoy working in comics, and I'm sure more people will be interested in hiring you after this. They've seen your work on Glaxel and this one, and hopefully that brings you more business in the future. But
all right, I love it. I'm having a great time. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Come
Uh,
on, come on.
so I know one thing I gotta get done more is promoting this project because we're not getting a lot of views right now. We're definitely not getting a lot of promoters yet. So I'm hoping if I can get on a couple websites and stuff like that, as long as you're okay with like promoting on certain independent comic promotion websites. I don't want to put the comic on something you're not comfortable with, like IndieCron or something like that. But as long
I
as
have
you're
I
yeah.
have no idea what that is.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how familiar you are with like Comicsgate and stuff like that, but
Mm.
yeah. But they're primarily Comicsgate and stuff like that. I just didn't want to put it on there in case you were not overly fond of that. But
Well, I don't know a whole lot about the Comicsgate stuff,
yeah,
and but you know, my clients and what they do with their book does not reflect on my personal ideologies. Just as long
yeah,
as everyone's clear on that, like whatever.
yeah. I know. I
I
didn't want
mean,
to get you upset or anything about it. That's all. Because
yeah, I try to stay pretty disconnected from all that stuff.
and that's a good thing because my view on it is I am fine with following or promoting on any sort of movement or anything as long as it's like I talk to a lot of those guys and all of the rumors and stuff like that are pretty overblown about the
It's
whole thing.
fucking nuclear, man. I don't want
Yeah,
anything to do with
yeah.
it.
They're
So,
they're they're just overblown is all I can say. Like the people involved with it are not what they say they are, I guess.
mm.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I mean, you get people
Yeah.
who get into their little groups and rumors start, and all of a sudden you've got people saying things over here, and like the facts are over here, and you're like, what the hell happened? It happens
That
everywhere on social media on
it
any
does.
side of
It does.
any issue.
And I mean, it happens internally too, eventually too, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. But we
It
won't
can
get into
happen
that.
in your own brain.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. So I try to stay as neutral as possible in
Yeah.
most things, but I do want to
That's probably
promote
a
the
good
book,
idea.
and
Yeah, yeah.
I want to promote it to as many different groups. Like I'm not trying to draw any political lines or anything like that, but I want to promote to different groups, and I'm all about independent comics. So
Mm.
not really interested so much in what the big two are doing now anymore.
Mm.
That's just there are a couple books I read, but for the most part it just doesn't excite me as much as it used to. But the
Mm.
independent scene is just on fire right now. So everything
Nice.
independent I want to promote as much as possible and want to
Cool.
be involved in. So I just wanted to get your okay on that sort of thing
Yeah.
before, because your name's going to be you know sort of attached to it as the artist, even though you're hired and whatnot.
Mm.
As far
True
as
that.
I can tell, nobody's really made any sort of a stink. I've talked to other people who are promoted on the website, and they said, "Yeah, nothing happened. It was just a way to promote the different people." So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I haven't made any official announcements or exclamations about the whole thing. So
yeah,
whatever you got to do.
yeah. I mean,
I'm sure people who know me are clear on the matter.
yeah, for sure. And that's perfectly fine. So I don't really have anything else to add. I think I'm gonna open up and just bring a couple more people in if they want to come in. And you're welcome to stay, or you can go if you've got stuff to do. It's up to you. Yeah.
I can stay for another 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Well, I'll just post the link in Twitter here, and we'll have
Okay.
a couple chats and see what happens if I can
All
find
right.
the right window here.
As long as we can keep coming up with stuff to talk about, that's
Oh yeah, for
number
sure.
one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's the hardest part to do, but I'm sure we can lots of stuff to talk about. So I know just looking at your techniques, you use a lot of inks and things like that, right?
I do enjoy working with like inks and the waterier of materials, just because you can get so many cool textures just out of going with randomness. But I'm realizing that I'm getting in a rut there,
Yeah.
so I'm starting to do more stuff with acrylic, and I just came up on like 10 canvases, so I need to do something with those. So
Okay.
gotta break out the more opaque mediums.
Now, I know in a lot of the work that I've done, painting wise and stuff like that, I started with ink too. I really liked ink, and then I sort of moved into acrylic after a while.
Mm.
Uh, mostly for the texture more than anything. Like the ink was really nice, and you could do a lot of things with like washes and things like that. But the acrylic was like really tough and hard, and you could make solid lines and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I was getting really into like the texture sort of thing, right? So that was back when I was painting. I haven't painted anything in probably 4 years now. So
Get back on it. What are you doing?
well, actually, I've been thinking about it. I see your stuff, and I'm like, geez, I really got to start painting again.
I love that. I want people to see my work and go, God damn, I could do better than that, and then give it a shot. What are you
it's
doing?
not better, but
Well, pick up your brush and find out, man. You're not going to know if you're just sitting here talking about it.
no, it's true. Yeah, it's not better for sure, but I'll tell you, like, it definitely, because my stuff was all like abstract, forms and things like that. It wasn't anything major. I used to do a lot of stuff where I took a photograph and stuck it to a canvas and then painted around it, sort of extended the scene out. Yeah. So I was doing that for a while, but I got kind of boring after a while. You do it so many times, and yeah, I don't know. With art, you're always trying to extend yourself a little bit, try different things, and yeah. So, and what was I gonna say? Sorry. What artists would you say influence you the most in your work, like in that style?
Ralph Steadman and Kent Williams. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Ralph Steadman is the guy who worked with American writer Hunter S. Thompson for most of his career. I think it was after he came out with Hell's Angels and had big success and got famous.
Right.
Are you familiar with this guy?
No, not exactly.
Okay, I got a book right here. I can just so you can get a quick look of kind of what I'm talking about. Most people when they see my work, especially at the markets, because I got more of the Gonzo stuff up there, but not anytime, but a lot of people who see my work, they look and go, oh man, that looks like Ralph Steadman. And so the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas stuff, where it's just totally a lot of visual violence and just splattering, really it's the messier side of my work can definitely be attributed to it's stuff like this where it's just I don't even know how to describe that, but it's just crazy. And that whole, again, the randomness thing, the whole goddamn piece of artwork is basically a mistake. It's kind of what it looks like. And I love that. It's just so wild and crazy. And he's still out there working, he's still doing the Gonzo stuff. He's on Twitter. So that's Ralph Steadman. And then Kent Williams did a book called The Fountain that was released alongside the movie that Darren Aronofsky made. I think that was 2006 or something like that. And this just has a really beautiful painted quality. Wow. Most of the book is done in oils and ink wash and acrylic ink and all that stuff.
Cool.
And it's cool because there's there's 3 timelines in the storyline, and the present one's done like that. The more the crazy ethereal one is done in a different style, and the one that happens in the past is in a different style as well. So it's really awesome, and just the quality of artwork it feels like a book that's just totally comprised of panels that are just canvas paintings. And having that mentality, I realized, oh shit, every panel in a comic book can be its own separate standalone piece of artwork. And so that mentality is really something that got me inspired to take comics as a medium seriously.
Right.
And I think I mentioned a third one. Those are the 2 main ones really that influenced my style and the way I think about my work. So
that's funny. I never knew that movie was based on a comic, but it kind of makes sense now.
Well, they were released at the same time. Darren Aronofsky wrote both of them, and then they were released simultaneously. So it was pretty cool, an ambitious move actually.
Yeah, I really like that movie. I own it.
You should pick up the book, man. You would love it. It's awesome.
I will go look for that now that I know it exists.
Yeah.
But I never even knew it existed.
That's
I
cool.
would say personally myself, and what kind of attracted me to that art style is I'm a really big fan of a lot of Japanese artists, and in particular Yoshitaka Amano, who kind of has that. I don't have any of his stuff sitting here, but I've got 8 of his books. Anyway, he's if you're familiar with the Final Fantasy games.
No, but I can kind of think of some of the concept and marketing artwork that's
It's
really
it's
like kind of pencil and watercolor looking?
yeah.
Mm,
He was the original concept artist on them, and
nice.
he has that. It's mostly like ink and yeah, that kind of sort of stuff. Like he worked in inks a lot for like the longest time. Now he's more into like acoustic stuff and
Nice.
yeah,
Oh man, acoustic
yeah,
can be really beautiful.
yeah. His new stuff is just is gorgeous. Like he's moved. He was always sort of like in the fine art field, but he's moved more and more and more into the fine art field out of the commercial stuff over the years. So, but
I
he's
love it
still
when those two paths cross, you know,
yeah.
when you get the like the Metal Gear Solid artwork, some of the
Oh
Street
yeah,
Fighter
yeah.
artwork too.
That's
It's
another
like
one.
that's really cool stuff.
Metal Gear Solid was why can't I think of his name right now? But anyway, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like his artwork really sort of like connected with me too. And actually the American guy, Ashley, why can't I think of his name? Ashley Wood, I think.
Hmm.
He did the comics that were released over here, and he sort of did it in that style. He was really good too. But his style's even more like more sort of sketchy and things like that. Yeah. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Oh man.
And
I've got one more
yeah,
artist that has really influenced me,
oh,
especially
go
more
ahead. Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Is a Korean guy named Master Jungji Kim, I believe is his name.
Okay.
And he does some really incredible stuff. And the thing that's most impressive about it is he takes, I got one. It's a specific pen that he, I think, almost exclusively uses. Crap, I don't have it up here with me. It's called a Pentel Pocket Brush, and it's really just it's a little paintbrush, like a watercolor brush, and it's got a little ink cartridge. You stick that in there, and he just does everything with that. He doesn't do any preliminary pencil sketches, which is the most mind blowing thing that to me about it. And his work is just incredibly detailed. I have a comic book that he did actually. Ha.
Sweet.
It's I'm glad I'm like trying to come up with all my little show and tell things. Like, can I show people what I'm talking about here? This one is called Spy Games. It's
Okay.
man,
Wow.
and just like the amount of detail in this is nuts. And just to imagine like all the planning that would a normal artist would have to put into like the composition of like we're talking about like going into the background with the buildings with the the perspective and the dimensions of everything kind of it's even like warped in like a fisheye. And he does a
Yeah.
lot of stuff like that, but that's all done without any planning. It just blows my mind. So that's another guy to watch out for. Jungji Kim.
That's really
Oh,
cool.
Kim Jung-ji. Sorry, I've
Oh,
got the name right in front of me. It's like
that's okay. Yeah.
Kim comes first.
Yeah. That's really cool looking stuff there. So
Yeah, that's a good one.
it's a comic book, is it? Or,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
comic book.
like a graphic
And
novel. Yeah.
yeah, it's a graphic novel, giant book. I got it for the
Mhm.
artwork. I don't know it. I didn't know
Right.
anything about the story, and it's in French, so I still don't know anything about the story. But the
Yeah.
artwork's really cool, and it's mostly fighting, so it
Yeah,
works
well,
out.
I mean, it works for just looking at it. I mean, that's
Yes.
a lot of the stuff I used to buy was just to look at it. So
Yeah. I mean, it's a book full of artwork. What are you gonna do?
yeah, exactly.
It's not quite literature yet. It's bridging the gap, but
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Oh man, yeah. There's just so much out there that, and I'm discovering new stuff every day. And oh, who the hell did that? That's awesome. And the more stuff you find like that, the more it kind of influences you. So surround yourself with artwork that you love looking at, and it'll make you stronger. And
Absolutely.
it'll keep you focused.
Yeah, I've got you can see behind me. There's a lot of stuff on the shelf and stuff like that. But my hallway out here is just posters that I had
Mhm.
dry mounted and put up on the wall. And actually, I've got the cover work up in a frame now. So
Nice.
that you
That's
did,
cool.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh, what an honor.
yeah. I love that piece so much.
That's cool. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm really glad to hear that.
yeah.
A happy client is that really warms my
Now,
heart.
now, if you can
So.
just see if we can just see it folded at some point and with a
Yeah,
book
yeah.
in the
Folded
middle
with
of
a
it.
bunch of pages
Yeah,
inside or something like that.
yeah. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
we got someone joining.
Oh, howdy.
Yeah.
Lies, I'm not joining.
What's that?
I'm not joining. What are you talking about?
Oh, you're not joining? Okay.
I'm just here to spy on you.
I see.
Oh, well, here you are.
Yeah. So how's it going there, Derek?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. Anything new, or just popping in? Or
No, was just listening to Peter Sabati's thing.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's another cool dude in comics right now. He's the head of Alterna.
Oh
putting
yeah,
out,
okay,
putting out a lot of independent books. So yeah,
nice.
in newsprint too, which is a really good, interesting way to put things
Yeah,
out.
that's cool. Like newsprint can give a pretty interesting texture to the work actually.
Yeah, well, actually, stuff. I mean, the stuff is really good. Like, actually, I got one of them here, handy. I think, someplace in this giant pile of stuff I have to read. This is I always pronounce it wrong, but it's Exlium, I think.
That's what it
Anyway,
looks like. Yeah,
yeah,
XLI.
but this was a #1 I picked up at a comic shop when I was at the convention because I had missed #1 when I was buying it, and it's just like a cool sci-fi story. But yeah, surprisingly the colors and stuff like that, they translate it really well into
Nice.
newsprint, which I like. And he's gotten better. Like this was an older print, so
Mm.
yeah, and the cover price, it's $1.50. Like you haven't seen that.
Hey,
Yeah.
whoa.
So they're keeping the
That's
cost down there.
is it that much cheaper to produce on newsprint?
Apparently, it is.
That's
Yeah.
insane. Wow.
So I don't know.
$1.50? What is this? The 1960s? Good lord, that's fantastic.
1990s, like
Yeah. I guess the comic books were like 10
yeah.
cents back then.
Well, I've got
To give you an idea of what his prices are versus other people's prices, if you go to like Gecko Printing or whatever,
Yeah,
it's like
Greco.
$4 an issue to get a 48-page thing, and if you go with him, it's like 63 cents per copy.
Wow, that is awesome.
That is really
That's
good.
really cool.
So I mean,
I have looked at Greco before. They are. I mean, that's kind of the standard price, though, right? Like Greco and Print Ninja are all kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. I wonder if. Well, see, my issue is finding the printer up here, because the issue with printing from the States is I've got to pay exchange, and then I've got to pay shipping, and the border fees can really kill you. I just did a job for some of the guys who did the comic Wand Pool, printing their insert art for their giveaways or for their backers or whatever. He contacted me. I work at a photography store or print shop, so we printed the artwork for the inside of the comic book. It's a lot cheaper for him to print it up here in Canada, even with the higher price, and not have to pay for that extra shipping. So yeah. That's the issue we're running into with printing up here. Whether or not, rough. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna try to figure out if we can print the comic at work, because that would be the best thing.
That would be awesome. Yeah, man.
Because we can print books like this, but this is 8.5 by 11, which is like I don't know, A4 size when you.
Right.
Yeah, which would be a really cool format for a comic. It would be big, but it wouldn't meet the collector standards or whatever.
Yeah, I think in order to get into like the previews and stuff like that, if that's what you're gunning for, you'd need to do something more like industry standard.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but I'll figure that out once we get going, though. I mean, regardless of the fact, the book's going to happen. It might take another year if it doesn't get backed, but it'll happen eventually.
I like that drive. That's good confidence, man. That's awesome.
And because I want to keep this going. Like I've got issue 2 started already.
Nice.
Like 20 pages into the script already. I decided it's just going to be as long as it has to be, I guess, to get to a certain narrative point in the story. So it might be a bigger book than this one. So
nice.
Probably.
I really enjoyed doing the artwork for it, man. I get to come up with all kinds of weird stuff and like arrogant Roman angels and flying crocodiles, and it's like it's all there, man. I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'll have to show you some of what I'm doing for issue 2, because the first part of the book so far has just been like one long action scene. There wasn't a lot of action or I should say there isn't a lot of action in the first book, but there are bits of action. But for the most part, it was all backstory, right? So we had to get that out of the way, and then we can get into sort of the main story. So when issue 2 picks up, it starts a little slow and prodding, but then it gets into a straight action scene that goes on for I don't know how long. I'm still writing that part, so writing action's a lot harder. But you got to go. When I send it to you, it's got to go. Okay, well, then this guy moves this way, and this. Yeah, so.
It might help if you make like a little motion map or something like that. Whatever, we'll cross the bridge when we get to it. And if you want any influence, if you want me to have any influence on the script while you're in process, or if you want any advice, feel free to shoot it my way, and I'll give you some pointers if you like, or something.
Yeah, I'm more worried about just the framing and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what it comes down to.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
You find action harder to write than other stuff?
So, like, say again?
You find writing action harder to write?
I do, yeah, because you have to put in all the motions, right? Well, okay, some people do it different, right? Like, they just write the dialogue and they say the two characters fight or something like that, right? Right? Yeah. No, I'm not kidding though. Like a lot of writers will do that, and then you just say, you come up with something," and then.
No, have you heard what some Hollywood writers do in scripts where they'll just go, and they fight, and it's like the entire movie is just and they fight.
That's what it's like though. Like I've seen some scripts, and then they go, "Okay, well, you come up with the action scene." So some artists can do it. And some can't.
Hey, that's fine. Hey, as long as I know what the outcome is, I got you covered, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just like
I can put the cream between the cookies. You know what I'm saying? It's like
it could just be me coming from a background of always looking at scenes through a lens or whatever. But I like to put in the framing and stuff like that.
I'm the same way for sure. Yeah. I even I'll talk in camera motions while I'm writing scripts.
Yeah,
I do write some of my own stuff. They're more like hobby projects, but I talk in cinematographer when I'm writing my scripts. So I definitely get that.
Yeah, for sure.
I figure the artist is probably better with the camera positions than I am, but I'm like, if they're a decent artist, they probably got this nailed down from the visual aspect. I just need to tell them what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I can yell at them.
There you go. That's all. That's what communication's all about.
Yeah.
So, guys, I've only got a few minutes left.
Okay, cool.
So I've got to wrap up here, but
yeah, that's fine. I think we're gonna close it down. I think we got a little chat, and people got to know you a little bit better, and they can get a better sense of where you're coming from with your style and everything like that. So
I hope so. Yeah, I had a great time. How about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great. So, Durkin, thanks for popping in, but I think we're going to shut her down for today. I've got a few things I got to get done too. So, and Rob, of course, thank you for coming in and chatting with me.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself.
Excellent. So I will see you all guys later on the chats, and thanks for coming in. Thanks for everybody who's watching out there or watching later. And I hope you go to Indiegogo and back my book of Time and Space, The Lunar Rise #1. Now funding. We've got about 47 days left, I think. So hopefully we can meet our goal. I need to sell about 340 more copies of the book to meet, goal. But if 340 of you want to back it, that would be wonderful. So everyone, thanks, and we'll see you later.
See you.
Peace.